All right, we'll stay in the NFL with our final look at the NFL draft before the Jaguars are on the clock tomorrow night. We are pleased to tell you that NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell has been fully vaccinated and he is allowed to hug the drafted players as is tradition. CDC is
Boo.
not pleased with that news. Anyway, 13 players will be in attendance, and an additional 45 will take part virtually. Actually, check that. It's not going to be 12 because somebody tested positive for COVID. Nice job, Caleb Farley. Drake, we talked quarterbacks last night. Your final thoughts on the draft and what you'll be paying attention tomorrow night.
Well, my final thought on the draft is I'm glad it's finally here tomorrow night. The draft is pretty exciting. The NFL draft is pretty exciting. I don't really get excited about the NBA draft. I couldn't tell you if I ever watched the MLB draft or NHL draft. But when it comes to the NFL draft, usually we have a break so long from the Super Bowl to the draft. We treat the draft like a game almost. Like we excited, fans excited. And I'm excited about that too. Even though, the virtual aspect is gonna play a lot in the draft, still you're gonna have you said it earlier, you're gonna have 12 players in person. So you still gonna get some type of feel. I'm happy for that. I'm happy the commission get the shake. Cause I know a lot of people saying, what's the big deal? Roger Goodell, he fully vaccine, he can shake people's hands. We have to understand this. For us, it's not a big deal. But for the player that gets to do this one time in his life, to walk up there on the stage and hold that jersey up and get to shake the commissioner hand and give him that nice brief hug, that's the rest of their lives. Like, we have to understand that. Just because we're not athletic enough to be the first overall pick, don't mean the guy that can do it don't, appreciate that or cherish that moment to be able to have that for the rest of their life. So, I'm excited about seeing that. I'm excited about the in person because another thing this shows is we're progressing back to somewhat of being normal. Yes, it's still a virtual aspect to this draft, but at least we get to see 12 individuals go up there and do their thing. So I'm excited about that. Now, a couple of things I will be paying attention tomorrow when this draft kicks off, with the first pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars pick. I've been hearing a lot of noise about 4 quarterbacks going off the rip, 1 through 4. I feel very confident that we will get 3 for sure. I feel very confident that it's going to be, Lawrence, Wilson, and Jones, probably the first 3. Or Lawrence, Wilson, and Fields, however you want to look at that. The 4th one is the one where I'm like, okay, somebody's going to trade up to 4 and look to get a quarterback. If that happens, I think it goes in some order of Lawrence, Wilson, Mack, Fields, just flip Jones and Fields, and that would be 1, 2, 3, 4. I think Trey Lance coming off the board at some later time. I don't think he did himself, a lot of help when he opted out. Because from what I'm looking at, only one guy that opted out last year, that fully opted out, is really maintaining their stock, and that's Jamar Chase. Because some people don't consider Penei Sewell as an opt-out, even though he kind of opt-out, but the Pac-12 was doing all this weird stuff over there, so they kind of like, he didn't opt-out, the whole conference opt-out. I don't know, but, so those are the only 2 names out of, seen that correlates with opting out that still maintain their draft stock. The rest of the guys then kind of slipped a little bit. So I do think we're going to get those 4 quarterbacks taken. 1, 2, 3, 4. I just don't know how it's going to look, but I do think we have that. My next thing was how many wide receivers will get taken in the first round. We know wide receiver was a hot topic last year. Once they started rolling. We have 3 guys that are clearly in the tier by themselves. Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle. They're where they're at. Then you got the rest of these guys, the tier 2s, the tier 3s, like the Elijah Moores, the Terrence Marshall Juniors, it was Rashawn Bateman, the guy, those type of guys that you heard about, but they kind of fell off, fell a little bit in the tiers. You got those guys. So I'm just curious to see how many wide receivers get taken. We know this is an offensive game, so you kind of want to get that talent out there and see what you can make happen. So I think, to be honest with you, outside of those 3 tier 1 wide receivers, I would not be surprised if they be the only 3 receivers taken in the first round. Just because of how the quarterbacks is moving everything around, I would not be surprised if just those 3 or the 3 that get taken in the first round, and then the rest of the wide receivers start getting taken towards the second round. Running backs. How many running backs would get taken in the first round? I think it's only one. Is you either gonna have Najee Harris or you're gonna have Travis Etienne. That's it. It's gonna be one of those two, and then if some godly reason both of those guys get taken, once the second round start, I think both of the guys from North Carolina come off pretty early, and then so on and so forth. So I do think, I mean, running backs, you get one. Last year we got to remember, Edwards-Helaire was the only one that got taken in the first round, and Kansas City traded back into the first round to get him. So it wasn't like, people are scratching out here for the running back position. That's starting to seem more and more like a day 2, day 3 kind of pickup. You could thank Ty Gurley and Zeke for that. All right, and then my next point was defensive tackle. I was curious to see when will the first defensive tackle. This is a very weak draft when it comes to defensive tackle. This is not the usual elaborate. You don't got your Kavon Kinlaws and so on and so forth. Guys get taken 7th overall, 8th overall. That ain't happening this year, folks. I would not be surprised if the first defensive tackle get taken in the second round instead of the first. It's only a select few that even got a first round grade. And for example, Christian Belmore, some people got him end of the first, beginning of the second. I'll tell you right now, if I was drafting him, he'd probably be second, somewhere in the second round. And I'm a Bama guy, but I think the only reason he came out in this draft is because the lack of defensive tackle talent that's in this draft. Had it been like last year or something, he comes back to school for another year. No doubt about it, but you got to take your opportunities as they're given, so I'm not mad at it, but I'm very curious to see if a defensive tackle get taken in the first round. And then, last but not least, I had to throw this out here. I got to see what my boys do. Can they break that record from the 2004 Miami Hurricanes? That year they had 6 guys taken in the first round. Can we get 7 taken? We'll see. That's a lot of guys to get drafted from one team. But we'll see if we can challenge that record. So overall, I'm just curious to see. I'm glad that the draft is back, and I'm curious to see how some of these positions come down. We know quarterback going to get taken care of, but once those quarterbacks come off the board, I'm curious to see what other positions either get affected by it, meaning they lose a couple of spots, or what other positions get bumped up by it, meaning they get more guys into the first round because of the quarterback.
Yeah, I'm the last point you made about how many maybe setting a record for most guys drafted. I'm looking through here, trying to count up who we'd have. We'd have Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, Mac Jones, Patrick Surtain, Christian Barmore, Najee Harris. Who am I missing? Is there one more?
Then you got the likes of I seen Alex Leatherwood, man.
Okay. All right. Yep.
Round first.
Okay.
Is it another name?
Yeah, that'd be your.
Yeah. Lander Dixon, the center, the one that won the award. I've been hearing this name too, so that's why.
Okay. Yeah, look, I'm looking at CBS Sports player rankings. They've got 5 in their top 32. They got Najee Harris 34th. This is overall, and they got Leatherwood 41st. So I mean, could be nothing else. Real good chance to tie it, because I think Najee Harris got a good chance of going in the first round. I mean, if nothing else, you could tie it. I don't know. Maybe Leatherwood gets up. He's a offensive tackle, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, listen. I just wanted to throw it, and the reason I thought that, even if we don't, I mean, we didn't definitely have 6 guys drafted before, but it's cool. This record been held since 2004, so it ain't nothing easy to do. Yeah. But we'll see. Wishful thinking.
Yeah. If nothing else, that's something. Yeah, right. Fun to look out to. It anything else, when you got a chance to see history happen, like Gonzaga having a chance to, win a national championship as an undefeated team, things like that. So yeah, I look forward to things like that. Quarterbacks will be front and center. We talked about that a little bit last week. I think what we'll see is everything. All indications have me thinking we'll see Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Mac Jones, the top three. Which begs the question. I think the draft, unless something, unless we're just completely out of the loop, the draft really starts with Atlanta at 4. And what do they do? Because they're in a pretty interesting position. Because obviously you can get, maybe the best player in the draft, period, in Kyle Pitts. And by the way, that tight end class, you talk about a weak class. I think after Kyle Pitts, it's pretty bare. So whoever gets Kyle Pitts has a gem. But then, we discussed this a little bit. Like, is that Atlanta's in one of them kind of no man's lands where you get Kyle Pitts? I mean, that's real cool. Now you got Julio, Calvin Ridley, and Kyle Pitts, and you got Matt Ryan. But we know they need a lot more than that. But then again, maybe that's the way they go because we know, Arthur Smith. Well, I think we know that Arthur Smith likes tight ends. Delaney Walker, Jonnu Smith, Anthony Ferkser, and all the like. I think Atlanta's interesting to watch, see what they do. I think it could be if you're really trying to acquire talent and get better a little bit more quickly, maybe you trade down, maybe you try to acquire more assets to get more players because they need a lot more than just a tight end. But it'll be kind of fun to see what they do there. But then on down, after your first three quarterbacks, if it is Lawrence, Wilson, and Mac Jones, I mean, Justin Fields for a long time, he was the next guy after Trevor Lawrence. He seems like he's kind of sliding a little bit. So, after your first three teams, Atlanta's not going to get a quarterback. Cincinnati's not. Miami's not. I mean, Detroit's got Jared Goff. I mean, maybe if you don't love Goff, but I mean, you did bring him in. You could have brought in just more picks and didn't even worry about it. Carolina just got Sam Darnold, on down the list. So unless somebody trades up, maybe Philadelphia gets in there. I don't know. Who is it? New England. These next quarterbacks who are on the list, Justin Fields and Trey Lance, that's who we think, they could be waiting a while. I mean, Washington, they might be in a situation where they trade up if they're in that position. They're sitting at 19. Chicago at 20. It's gonna be a while for those other quarterbacks. Some teams that I think are really interested. I think the wide receiver situation is pretty interesting. It'd be really cool. I don't think we get this if Joe Burrow and Tua Tagovailoa get one of their old wide receivers from their college days. That'd be really cool. But I think Joe Burrow's kneecap probably would prefer an offensive lineman in a Penei Sewell. Right. Him on in there. You could get Terrace Marshall in the second round, maybe.
Right.
So that'd be neat. And then, if you're Miami, you're in a kind of you're going to be in a neat situation. They probably, I would assume, have the pick of wide receivers. They'll have the choice of Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, and Devontae Smith. I don't think you go wrong with any of them. I think it might be we talked about the three from last year, Judy, CeeDee Lamb, and Henry Ruggs. I don't know. This trio might be an even more sure thing to me.
Yeah, I think this trio is better than last year's trio.
You got the Heisman Trophy winner. You got a guy that's so good he didn't play a down of football, and he's still going to be. Yeah, if it wasn't for
second wide receiver taken.
Yeah, if it wasn't for quarterbacks, what does CBS have him? CBS has got to have him. Like they've got him ranked 6th overall, period. But regardless, I mean, if it wasn't for quarterbacks, he could be in the top 5. And then Jalen Waddle, I don't need to say anything about Jalen Waddle. This guy's electric in every sense of the word. So on down the list. I think Philadelphia, I've been told that they're not sold on Jalen Hurts, or they are sold. Remember Nick Sirianni said, hey, I feel great about these two great quarterbacks we've got. Now you don't have Carson Wentz, and Jalen Hurts is, I don't know what he's doing. But Philadelphia, they're kind of fun to look at. New England to see what they do. Cam Newton going to come back again, but do they get a quarterback, or do they not worry about it? Do they do something else? They had that big influx of free agent spending got a lot of dudes in there. I don't think they brought them all in just to be 7-9 again. Miami's got 2 picks again in the first round as they continue to, what is that? That's still the Tunzel trade probably. They are milking some of them deals forever. On down the list, I think, as far as running backs and whether it's Najee Harris or Travis Etienne, I think Pittsburgh is probably the team I'd be looking at to take a running back. They don't have James Conner anymore. All those other dudes, whether it's Benny Snell or whoever, that none of those guys get you excited. They couldn't run the football pretty much the whole second half of last year. They quit. They didn't even try. They have to be better on the ground to help Ben Roethlisberger. If they want to continue, if they want to have a chance again this year to compete at the highest level. Najee Harris, I would pick Najee Harris, not think twice about it. I think he's that good, and I know the running back position is undervalued and all that, but I think you do that. And speaking of another team that needs to fill a position, Baltimore, paging DaCosta, whoever's running that team, any day you want to draft a wide receiver, just any day. They're folks are out there holding their breath from last year. They're not doing too well because of that. I think Rashad Bateman, I would go Rashad Bateman. You got Marquise Brown, 5'10", 5, whatever he is, blow by you down the field. Get a guy who can complement him, a guy a little bit bigger. Bateman's about 6'2", well over 200 pounds. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's much like last year. Last year was a deep wide receiver class. There's a lot of great options again this year. They got the 27th and 31st pick. They got 2 first-round picks. I'd be shocked if they don't use one of them on a wide receiver.
What I would do is if you don't feel comfortable drafting a wide receiver, which I can understand that this year, you don't get the extra combine, you don't get all that. At least package up the picks and try to go. I'm not saying you can go get Julio, but Julio is on the market every day. See what you can do for Julio. You see what? That's what I think they should do. Rather than go draft, they need someone that Lamar Jackson see, just like Stephon Diggs did for Josh Allen. Oh, that dude is a dude. Oh, he come to our team, got it. You know what I'm saying? That's what they need for Lamar. Because the more they let this slide, I think he's gonna start losing confidence. But I do agree with you. Everybody should agree with you. They need a doggone wide receiver. I think that's probably they better. If they can get somebody that's already established.
Yeah, and beyond that, I think, we talked about the 5 quarterbacks who are kind of, it would seem to be, they're all going to go in the first round probably. But, we can't ignore the guys who are next, because whether it's Russell Wilson, whether it's Tom Brady, some quarterbacks, you find them later on in the draft. Is there a guy in that type of, scenario this year, whether it's a Kyle Trask, dare I say Kellen Mond, a guy like that who gets drafted in the later rounds that in a couple of years we're looking like, man, look at that steal of a guy that, and then meanwhile somebody drafted Josh Rosen a couple of years ago and we haven't seen him in a long time. So, it's going to happen. Somebody will get drafted. I think it's Kyle Trask. He's a mid-round guy who could pop for an NFL team. But beyond that, in the big picture, I'm really excited to see some guys actually in the green room, enjoying the experience. I will say though, you got 13. Well, now it's 12 guys that showed up are going to be in the room. Now, look, if you're there, you better get drafted in the first round, because if you don't, you're going to look a little silly. I'm talking to you, Gregory Rousseau, and was there one more, Christian Barmore. You better. In Barmore, I feel like Najee Harris and Christian Barmore kind of be in the same situation. The position is kind of weak, so a team that needs one will be more inclined to reach just a little bit, even though it probably isn't a reach for either one of those guys. But yeah, please don't be the one out of 12 players who showed up for the draft and then is sitting there for 32 rounds like, oh, that's it. Guess we'll show up for the second round. That would be the perfect cop out. It seemed like, it's probably going to be somewhat disheartening for the guys who show up virtually and they don't get picked, but at least, oh, I didn't get drafted, or I'm not feeling this, I'll turn the camera off and I'm going to do something else for the night.
I'm at the house or I'm at somewhere where I feel I got people around me.
Right. Yeah.
You like, guys, I'm still back here, guys. Don't turn off the lights.
But anyway, yeah, in the end, very excited, for this. Just as much as last year when there was nothing else going on besides the draft, we spent a lot more time on it. But yeah, definitely looking forward to it. And as always, we'll see how it turns out, and we will be back with some of our thoughts on it on Saturday.